The call came 3 days before Jessica's engagement party while I was prepping vegetables for the dinner rush. I saw my sister's name flash on my phone and almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Maya, we need to talk about Saturday." Her voice had that careful tone she used when she'd already made a decision and was just informing me of it. "About the engagement party." I wiped my hands on my apron. "Okay. So, Brandon's family is flying in from Connecticut. His dad is a managing partner at Whitmore Capital. You've probably never heard of them, but they're a very prominent private equity firm. His mom sits on like 3 charity boards. These are serious people." I switched the phone to speaker and went back to chopping. "Uh-huh. And Brandon's colleagues from Goldman are coming. Plus some of his Princeton friends. It's going to be very..." She paused. "It's going to be a certain kind of crowd. I'm familiar with private equity and investment banking, Jess." She laughed, that specific laugh that meant she thought I was being cute. "Maya, I'm not trying to be mean, but you work at a family restaurant. These people operate in a different world. Brandon's trying to make partner next year, and first impressions matter. So you're uninviting me from your engagement party." "I'm not uninviting you. I'm just thinking maybe it would be more comfortable for everyone if you sat this one out. You know how his family is going to ask what you do, and when you say you're a server at mom and dad's place." She trailed off. "It's just not the impression we want to make." "The impression we want to make," I repeated. "Nothing personal, Maya. You know I love you. But you're almost 30 and you're still working at the same restaurant you worked at in high school. People might think, well, you understand." "Sure, Jess. I understand perfectly. I knew you would." She sounded relieved. "We'll do something, just us, next week. Maybe brunch?" "Sounds great." Brandon will be so relieved. He was worried about having to explain why his future sister-in-law is a waitress when his friends are all asking about our families. You know how he gets anxious about these networking things. Yeah, I know exactly how he gets. After I hung up, I finished the prep work and walked into the dining room of my parents' restaurant. Chen's Garden had been here for 32 years. 48 seats, red vinyl booths, laminated menus. My parents ran it 6 days a week, and I helped whenever I wasn't traveling for my other work. The work Jessica knew nothing about. I was 29 years old, and I'd spent the last 7 years building a restaurant empire my family never knew existed. It started when I was 22, fresh out of culinary school. My parents expected me to take over Chen's Garden eventually, and I planned to, but I also saw opportunity everywhere. I started consulting for struggling restaurants, helping them fix their menus, improve their operations. Word spread. By 23, I wasn't just consulting, I was investing. I'd take a dying restaurant, pour in my savings plus small business loans, restructure everything, and watch it transform. My first acquisition was a failing Thai place in Portland. Bought it for $180,000, mostly borrowed money. Fixed the menu, retrained the staff, rebranded it. 18 months later, it was grossing $1.2 million a year. I sold it for $890,000, tripled my investment. I reinvested everything. Another restaurant, then another. By 25, I had 4 restaurants. By 27, 8. Now, at 29, I owned 11 upscale restaurants across Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. My restaurant group, Catalyst Hospitality, generated $34 million in annual revenue. My personal net worth was $18.3 million. I still worked shifts at my parents' restaurant because I genuinely loved it. The recipes were my grandmother's. The regular customers had watched me grow up. This was heritage, not business. My other restaurants were business. My family assumed I was barely getting by on server wages and tips. I never corrected them. I wanted to see who they'd be when they thought I had nothing to offer. Jessica was the golden child. MBA from USC, marketing director at a Fortune 500 consumer goods company, salary of $280,000 plus stock options. By normal standards, she was phenomenally successful. By my standards, she was an employee. But to our parents, Jessica was proof they'd raised a winner. Every family dinner became a Jessica showcase. Her promotion, her corner office, her networking dinner with someone important, and every showcase needed contrast. That someone was me. At least Maya has job security, Dad would say when relatives asked about me. The restaurant will always be there. She works so hard, Mom would add. Not glamorous but honest work. We can't all climb the corporate ladder like Jessica. Last Thanksgiving, Jessica brought Brandon home for the first time. Over dinner, his parents asked what I did. Maya works here, Jessica said before I could answer. She's been helping Mom and Dad since high school. Very loyal, but not really ambitious. Not like she could do what I do. Different skill sets. Brandon's dad chuckled. Well, someone has to work the service industry. Society needs servers. Mom patted my hand. We're proud of both our daughters. Success means different things to different people. I'd smiled and said nothing because defending yourself to people who've already decided your worth is pointless. Better to let them believe their narrative. And it worked beautifully. While Jessica posted every promotion on LinkedIn and Instagram, I quietly acquired restaurants. While my parents bragged about Jessica's stock options, I owned equity worth more than her entire retirement account. While they pitied my server wages, I made more in monthly distributions from my restaurants than Jessica made in a year. The best part. 2 months ago, Brandon's dad, Richard Morrison, had contacted Catalyst Hospitality. Whitmore Capital was looking to invest in the restaurant sector. They wanted to acquire a regional restaurant group with strong fundamentals and growth potential. They'd identified my company as a target. We'd been in preliminary negotiations for an $8.5 million buyout that would give them 40% ownership. Brandon had no idea his dad was trying to buy part of my company. Jessica had no idea I owned a company. And now Jessica was uninviting me from her engagement party because I'd embarrass her in front of Brandon's private equity family. The irony was exquisite. That evening, I called my best friend and business partner, Rachel, who ran operations for our Seattle locations. Let me guess, she said immediately. Jessica uninvited you from something. The engagement party. Said I'd embarrass them in front of Brandon's Goldman Sachs friends. Rachel laughed. Brandon, whose father is literally trying to give you $8.5 million for part of your company? That Brandon? The very same. Maya, you have to tell them. This is beyond funny. It's cruel. They're being cruel to themselves. I'm just existing. For how long? Until they die never knowing their daughter is worth $18 million. Rachel, you know what I think. I think Saturday is going to be very interesting. The party is Saturday? At Lakewood Country Club. 7 p.m. And here's the thing, Rachel. Richard and Patricia Morrison will be there. They know exactly who I am. We had a video call last week about the acquisition terms. Oh my God. Maya. I'm not doing anything. I'm simply not preventing reality from happening. You're diabolical. I love it. What are you doing Saturday since you're too embarrassing for the party? Working? I'll probably just stay home. Prep for our Monday meeting with the contractors for the new San Francisco location. You're an $18 million net worth restaurateur, spending Saturday night alone doing paperwork. I'm a family restaurant server who enjoys helping her parents. The $18 million thing is just a side effect. After we hung up, I sat in my small apartment above Chen's garden. My phone buzzed with messages. Business partners, restaurant managers, the real estate broker handling our SF expansion, people who knew exactly who I was and what I'd built. None of them were my family. The next day, I got a text from Jessica. By the way, don't mention the party to Mom and Dad. Don't want them to feel bad that we're doing something fancy. You know how they get. I replied, your secret is safe. Her response, you're the best. This is why you're my favorite sister. I was her only sister. Saturday arrived clear and cold. I spent the morning reviewing profit and loss statements for our Q3 performance. Revenue was up 23% year over year. The new Portland location was exceeding projections. By afternoon, I changed into comfortable clothes, made tea, and opened my laptop to work on the San Francisco build-out plans. At 5 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. Maya, sweetie, what are you doing tonight? Just working on some stuff. Why? Your sister's engagement party is tonight. You're going, right? I paused. Actually, Jess thought it might be better if I sat this one out. What? Why? She said Brandon's family is very corporate. She didn't think I'd fit in. Mom was quiet for a long moment. That's ridiculous. You're her sister. It's fine, Mom. I understand. I don't understand. This is a family event. You should be there. Honestly, Mom, I'd rather not go somewhere I'm not wanted. She sighed. Your sister can be. I don't know. Sometimes I think she forgets where she came from. After we hung up, I went back to my work. At 6:30, my phone rang again. Rachel, are you watching Instagram? No. Should I be? Jessica just posted pictures from the party. It started early, I guess. There's a photo of Brandon's parents. Maya. I'm looking at Richard Morrison's face. He's there. He's at that party right now. I know. And in about 30 minutes, when they do the formal introductions and toasts, what do you think is going to happen when Richard Morrison realizes the server sister Jessica is hiding is actually the CEO he's been negotiating with all month? I have no idea, Rachel. That's not something I can control. You're impossible. I'm coming over. But she didn't, because she lived in Seattle. Instead, at 7:15, my phone started buzzing. First text was from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Chen, this is Richard Morrison. I'm at an event, and I believe your sister is here. There seems to be some confusion. Could you call me? Then another text, from Jessica. Maya, call me right now. Then my phone actually rang. Jessica. I answered. Hi, Jess. What the hell is happening? Her voice was strangled. Brandon's dad just asked if I'm related to Maya Chen from Catalyst Hospitality. What is Catalyst Hospitality? It's my restaurant group. You're what? I own 11 restaurants in 4 cities. Catalyst Hospitality is my company. Richard and I have been in acquisition talks for the past 2 months. I could hear party noise in the background. People talking, glasses clinking. You own restaurants. Multiple restaurants. Yes. How is that possible? You work at Mom and Dad's place. I work there 1 or 2 days a week because I love it. The rest of my time, I run my actual business. But you're a server. I'm a restaurateur. I'm also a server. They're not mutually exclusive. Mom. She yelled away from the phone. She's saying she owns restaurants. Mom's voice came through. Let me talk to her. Maya, honey, what's going on? Hi, Mom. There's been some confusion. Richard Morrison is trying to acquire part of my restaurant company. We've been in negotiations. I didn't realize he'd be at Jessica's party. Your restaurant company. Maya, you have a restaurant company? Yes, Mom. I've been building it for 7 years. 7 years? How did we not know about this? You never asked. You assumed working at Chen's Garden was my only job. Jessica's voice came back. Richard Morrison just said you're worth millions. He said you're one of the most promising young restaurateurs on the West Coast. He said his firm has been trying to get a meeting with you for months. That's accurate, and you never told us. You never asked, Jess. You just assumed I was barely scraping by. But you live in that apartment above the restaurant. It's a 2-bedroom. And yes, I live there because it's convenient and I like being close to Chen's Garden. That doesn't mean I can't afford other places. Brandon's voice joined in the background. Someone was explaining something to him. Then Brandon himself got on the phone. Maya, hi, this is Brandon. There's been a significant misunderstanding. My father says you run Catalyst Hospitality? That's correct. The group we've been trying to acquire for our restaurant sector fund. Yes. His voice dropped. Jessica told me you were a waitress. She said you worked at your parents' restaurant. I do work there. I also own a multi-million-dollar restaurant group. Both things are true. I could hear him talking to someone. Then Richard Morrison's voice came through. Miss Chen, Richard Morrison, I apologize for this awkward situation. I had no idea you were Brandon's fiancé's sister. It's fine, Mr. Morrison. I should have made the connection. Chen's Garden, your parents' restaurant. But you use Catalyst Hospitality for your corporate identity, so I never put it together. I keep my family life and business life separate. Clearly. May I ask why? I wanted to see who they'd be when they thought I had nothing. And I wanted to build something that was entirely mine. He was quiet for a moment. That's remarkably disciplined. And somewhat heartbreaking. It's been educational. I imagine so. Listen, I know this is awkward timing, but we should continue our acquisition discussions. Your numbers for Q3 are impressive. Would you be open to meeting next week? Have your office call mine. We'll set something up. Perfect. And Miss Chen, your sister is quite eager to speak with you. She seems distressed. I can imagine. Jessica came back on. Maya, everyone here knows who you are. Brandon's boss from Goldman just said he's eaten at your Seattle restaurant. Someone from Sequoia Capital said she's been trying to invest in your company. The country club manager just came over and said you're on the waitlist for membership here. That's accurate. The waitlist is 18 months. 18 months. She stopped. You could have come to this party. You could have been here. You're more successful than almost everyone here. I wasn't invited, remember? You thought I'd embarrass you. Because we thought you were just a waitress. I am a waitress. I'm also a CEO. You never bothered to find out which was which. I heard her talking to someone, voice muffled. Then she came back. Mom and Dad are here. They drove over. They're demanding to talk to you. I stood and walked to my window, looking down at Chen's garden below. The neon sign flickered in the early evening darkness. Dad's voice came through. Maya, what's going on? Jessica is saying things that don't make sense. Hi, Dad. What's not making sense? She says you own restaurants. Multiple restaurants. That you're worth millions. That's true. How much? My restaurant group generates about $34 million in annual revenue. My personal net worth is around $18 million. The silence was profound. $18 million? Give or take. But you work at our restaurant. I work at our restaurant because I love it, Dad. It's home. It's Grandma's recipes. It's our history. That doesn't mean I can't also run a successful business. Mom's voice. For how long? How long have you been doing this? 7 years. I bought my first restaurant when I was 22. 22. She sounded faint. You were 22. I started with a failing Thai place in Portland, borrowed $120,000, bought it for $180,000, turned it around, sold it for $890,000 18 months later. We had no idea. I tried to tell you. 3 years ago, I mentioned I bought a new car. You asked if I got a good deal on a used one. I said I paid cash for a new Audi. You laughed and changed the subject. I don't remember that. 4 years ago, I told you I was flying to San Francisco for business. You asked if Chen's Garden was catering an event. I said I was meeting with investors. You said that sounded fancy and didn't ask anything else. Mom started crying. We weren't listening. No. You weren't. Jessica came back on. Maya, we need you to come here. Right now. We need to talk about this as a family. I'm not coming to a party I was uninvited from, Jess. But everyone wants to meet you. Richard Morrison wants to introduce you to his partners. Brandon's boss wants to talk about your expansion plans. You told me not to come because I'd embarrass you. That was 72 hours ago. I'm not going to show up now that you've discovered I'm valuable. We didn't know. Exactly. You didn't know. You assumed. You decided I was a failure without ever asking a single question about my life. That's not fair, isn't it? How many times have you introduced me as your little sister who works at Mom and Dad's restaurant? How many times have you apologized for me to your corporate friends? I never meant it like that. Intent doesn't matter, Jess. Impact does. That's something I learned in business. You don't get to judge your actions by what you meant. You judge them by what they caused. I hung up. Over the next 2 hours, I received 57 calls and 93 text messages. I read none of them and answered none of the calls. Instead, I made dinner, watched an episode of a cooking show, and reviewed the architectural plans for the San Francisco build-out. At 10 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Miss Chen, this is Patricia Morrison, Richard's wife. I hope I'm not calling too late. Mrs. Morrison, this is unexpected. I'm at this engagement party, and I've just learned something extraordinary. You're the Maya Chen from Catalyst Hospitality, and you're also Jessica's sister? That's correct. Your sister spent the entire cocktail hour explaining that you weren't here because you're just a waitress. She seemed almost embarrassed by you. I'm aware. I wanted to reach out personally. First, to apologize. The way your family spoke about you was dismissive, and now I understand you've built one of the most impressive young restaurant groups on the West Coast. Thank you. Second, I wanted to tell you that your sister is learning a difficult lesson tonight. Several people have made rather pointed comments about the irony of uninviting someone who's more successful than anyone at the party. I didn't intend to embarrass her. You didn't. She embarrassed herself. You simply existed, and the truth came out. After I hung up, I finally looked at my messages. 41 from Jessica, ranging from panic to anger to something that looked like grief. 27 from Mom, all variations of we need to talk and please call us. 14 from Dad, more subdued but equally urgent. And 1 from Rachel, I'm dying. Please tell me what happened. I texted her a summary. Her response, that's the most poetic justice I've ever witnessed. The next morning, I worked the Sunday brunch shift at Chen's Garden like I always did. We were busy. I took orders, served food, chatted with regulars who'd known me since I was a kid. At 2 p.m., the door opened and Jessica walked in. She looked terrible. Red eyes, no makeup, wearing yoga pants and a hoodie. She sat at the counter. Can we talk? I'm working. Maya, please. I poured her a cup of coffee. What do you want to talk about? I spent all night thinking about everything. Reading about your company. Going through your website. Looking at reviews of your restaurants. Maya, you're incredible. You've built something amazing. Thank you. And I had no idea. 7 years. 7 years of you building this empire. And I knew nothing. I kept pouring coffee for other customers, taking orders, clearing plates. I also realized something terrible, Jessica continued. You tried to tell us. So many times, you tried to share what you were doing, and we shut you down. Every time. Yes. 2 years ago, you mentioned you were opening a restaurant in Seattle. I laughed and asked if you were finally leaving Chen's Garden. You said you'd never leave Chen's Garden. I said that's what I thought and changed the subject. You were trying to tell me you'd opened your own place, and I wasn't listening. I remember. Last Christmas, you said you'd had a good year. Dad asked if you got good tips. You said actually, revenue was up significantly. He said tips must be good with all the holiday parties. He literally didn't hear you. Yes. We didn't just fail to ask, Maya. We actively prevented you from telling us. Every time you tried to share your success, we dismissed it. We made it clear we weren't interested in anything that didn't fit our narrative of you as the unsuccessful sister. I set down the coffee pot. Yes. Jess. You did. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to want a relationship with me anymore. I just needed you to know that I finally understand what I did. She pulled out her phone and showed me something. It was an Instagram post she'd made last night. I need to apologize publicly. I spent years diminishing my sister because I thought her success was less than mine. Last night I learned she's built a restaurant empire worth millions while I was bragging about my corporate job. I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry, Maya. The post had 847 likes and 203 comments. I don't know what to say, Jess. You don't have to say anything. She stood. I just wanted you to know I'm working on being better. I started therapy this morning. I have an appointment next Saturday. That's good. And Maya? She paused at the door. Brandon and I talked last night. Really talked. He admitted he's been uncomfortable with how I talk about you. He said it made him see me differently. We might postpone the wedding. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's what I need to hear. She smiled sadly. You were right. Impact matters more than intent. After she left, I finished my shift. Dad came out from the kitchen. Can we talk? Sure, Dad. We sat in a booth. He looked older, somehow. Your mother and I have been talking all night. About everything you tried to tell us. All the times we didn't listen. Okay. I want to understand something. Why did you keep working here? If you're running this big company, why come back to this little restaurant? Because this is home, Dad. This is where I learned to cook. This is Grandma's legacy. This is family. My other restaurants are business. This place is love. He started crying. We taught you that family businesses aren't good enough. That you needed to be like Jessica, in a big corporate job, to be successful. You did. And the whole time, you were more successful than any of us could imagine. You just did it quietly. I built it quietly because I wanted it to be mine. Not connected to family expectations, not dependent on your approval. Did we lose you? I don't know yet, Dad. That depends on whether you can value me when I'm not performing success in ways you recognize. Whether you can respect me when I'm serving tables here. Knowing what I do the rest of the week. He nodded. We'll do better. We'll earn it back. 3 months later, I met Jessica for coffee. She looked different, less polished, more genuine. I've been thinking about something, she said. Why do you still work at Chen's Garden? You could hire someone. I love it there. It's not about the money, but isn't it exhausting? Running your company and still serving tables? No. It's grounding. Those customers knew me when I was 16 and dropping plates. They know me now, when I'm 29 and running an $18 million company. They don't care either way. They just want good food and someone who remembers they like extra napkins. She smiled. I quit my job. What? I realized I was doing it to prove something. To prove I was better than you, better than our immigrant parents who run a small restaurant. But I don't even like marketing. I don't like corporate America. I was just chasing a narrative. What are you going to do? I'm going to culinary school. Seriously? I want to learn what you know. Not the business part. The cooking part. I want to understand why you love Chen's Garden so much. That's brave. It's overdue. 6 months after the engagement party, Richard Morrison and I finalized the deal. Whitmore Capital invested $8.5 million for 40% of Catalyst Hospitality. The valuation put my remaining 60% ownership at $12.8 million. Combined with my other assets, my net worth hit $22 million. I was featured in Portland Business Journal. The headline, The Server CEO, How Maya Chen Built a Restaurant Empire While Working at Her Parents' Restaurant. The article went viral. I got interview requests from Forbes, Incorporated, Business Insider. I declined them all. Instead, I worked my regular Sunday shift at Chen's Garden. A year after the party, my family gathered for dinner. Not at a fancy restaurant. At Chen's Garden. After closing, Jessica was in her second semester of culinary school. She'd broken off her engagement with Brandon, who'd taken a job in New York. She seemed happier. We talked carefully, honestly. They asked real questions about my business. I asked about their lives. We didn't pretend the past 7 years hadn't happened. We didn't pretend everything was fine. But we were rebuilding. Mom asked what had made me successful. I corrected her. Not what made me successful. What made you finally see I'd been successful all along? She nodded, accepting the correction. Dad asked if I resented them. I told him the truth. Sometimes. But mostly I'm grateful. You taught me that my worth isn't dependent on external validation. You taught me to build things quietly. You taught me that being underestimated is an advantage. Those are terrible lessons for parents to teach, he said quietly. Maybe. But I learned them well. Jessica asked the hardest question. Do you think we can ever get back what we lost? I thought carefully. We can't get back 7 years. But we can build something new. If you're willing to do the work. We are, Mom said. We really are. 2 years after that engagement party, I gave a guest lecture at Portland State's business school. Someone asked about my family. I hear you built your entire company in secret from your family. Is that true? Not secret. I just didn't advertise. There's a difference. But why? Most people want recognition from their families. I wanted to see who they'd be when they thought I had nothing. I wanted to know if their love was conditional. And I wanted to build something that was entirely mine, not connected to their expectations. And what did you learn? I learned that most people's love is more conditional than they'd like to admit. I learned that being underestimated is a strategic advantage. And I learned that the only validation that matters is the value you create. Do you regret how it happened? The public discovery at the engagement party? No. If I'd told them privately, they could have controlled the narrative. They could have minimized it. The public discovery meant they had to confront the full truth all at once. That seems harsh. Maybe. But 7 years of dismissal was harsh too. Sometimes the truth needs to hit hard enough that it can't be denied. After the lecture, I checked my phone. A text from Jessica. Watched your lecture online. You were brilliant. Mom, Dad, and I are so proud. I smiled and replied, thanks. Dinner Sunday after my shift? We'd love that. I'm cooking. Trying Grandma's recipe for braised pork. Wish me luck. Another text from Rachel. Your lecture was incredible. Also, the SF location hit $200K in revenue this month. We're crushing it. Congratulations. That's well deserved. Thanks, boss. Thanks for believing in me when I was just a line cook with big dreams. As I walked across campus, I thought about that engagement party 2 years ago. The moment Richard Morrison recognized me. The moment Jessica's world shifted. The moment my family's narrative shattered. People asked if I'd planned it. If I'd engineered the reveal. The truth was simpler. I just lived my life. Built my restaurants. Worked my shifts at Chen's Garden. The engagement party was going to happen regardless. Richard Morrison was going to be there regardless. The collision was inevitable. I hadn't engineered their humiliation. I'd simply stopped protecting them from reality. And reality, as I teach in my business lectures, has a way of making itself known eventually. You can ignore it, dismiss it, pretend it doesn't exist. But eventually, the truth emerges. Sometimes at an engagement party. Sometimes in front of your fiancé's private equity family. Sometimes when the person you dismissed as just a waitress turns out to own more than everyone in the room combined. The truth doesn't need revenge. It just needs time. And I'd given it 7 years. That was enough.